Welcome to Carly Tackle's Building Stairs. In this video, we will be building outdoor stairs from our patio up into our sliding door. We've already determined how many steps and the size of those steps in a previous video. If you need help with this step, please watch Carly Tackle's Figuring Out How to Build Stairs. Now here's a quick recap of our stair dimensions.
So we're going to have 3 rises and 3 runs that we're going to draw out on our 2x6 or 2x12 board. So our rise, based off our math, will be 7 inches tall. So this guy will be 7. And we picked a 10-inch run because our tread is going to be 1.5 inches thick, because that's the actual dimension of 2x6s, and it'll be 11 inches wide because that's 5.5 and 5.5, and that would leave us about an inch overhang. We also know that my risers are going to be 3/4 of an inch thick. And then when you draw this out on the boards, you'll see why that matters.
To draw out our rise and runs on our 2x12 board, we'll be using a framing square. I'm also using these stair gauges. These are little brass knobs that you can turn and set at different dimensions on your square. This will help us keep the same alignment on the stairs so we can draw them faster. And you'll see more when we get closer. I went ahead and set one of them at my rise, which is 7 inches, and one of them at my run, which is 10 inches. Now let's start drawing this out. Starting at our far end of our 2x12, we are going to start by measuring our rise and then our run. So our rise goes all the way to the corner. And then you'll notice the stair gauges actually helps hold the board. So it doesn't really matter where I'm going, it helps keep me locked in. So I always keep this angle. So we line it up to the corner, and I have it already marked at 7. And we're going to draw up and follow it around. Now I do recommend labeling which one is which. It just might help you kind of keep your orientation as you're doing it. So this is our rise, this is our run, and this will actually be our top step. Now we're going to flip this over and continue the line. Actually, I'm going to use the big side. Okay, now this is the line we're going to cut against. Right here, from here to here, this is the side that's going to go up against the house. So this is the top side. Now, it's just a matter of sliding our square, matching it up to the line we just drew, our run line, to our 7, drawing another step. We got your rise, run, lining it up again, rise, run. And one more here. We got your rise, and we got your run. Now this last run is actually not going to be a part of the step, but we need the line. So remember in the video when I talked about tread and your risers, this is where it comes into play. We need to account for the thickness of the boards of your riser and your tread when drawing this out. If we want to maintain that 1-inch overhang, we need to make a few adjustments to this drawing. So the first thing, if you are having an enclosed steps and you need a riser, we're actually going to measure in from this line right here the thickness of your riser. And if you remember correctly, ours is 3/4 of an inch. So I would measure in 3/4 of an inch and redraw my line and cut that off. Now I'm going to be building a platform for my steps to go up to. So I will not be needing to cut out this 3/4 of an inch thickness for my risers because I will use my platform to offset that. Now, at the bottom of your stairs, we need to account for your tread. If you remember, the tread is the material that goes on top of your run. It's your actual step. And we are using 2x6s. 2x6's actual size is 1.5 by 5.5. So we need to measure 1.5 inches in from the line that we just drew right here. Now luckily on a framing square, this skinny guy right here is exactly 1.5 inches. So all we have to do is line up our framing square to that run. It's easier if you move your stair gauge. That run that we just drew, line it up, and instead of drawing your line on this side of it, we are going to draw on the underneath side. And so now we just accounted for that tread. I want to zoom in right here, mostly to reassure you that even though we're cutting out the depth for our tread, that our stairs are still going to have a 7-inch rise for every rise that we have. So if you put your square to the line of our cutout, which is right here, we come up to the board 5.5 inches. Now if we put on a 2x6, that's going to add 1.5 inches, so we're actually at 7. So our tread's going to come up to here. So our step from the ground up is going to be 7 to the foot hitting the top of the step. So we are still maintaining our 7-inch rise. Now we don't need to do anything on these other rises because they will all be adjusted. We'll have the 1.5-inch tread here that will push up this tread and the risers, and you will have your 7-inch to the top of that. This is kind of the part that confused me the most, so I wanted to really cover it with you. And then we'll do a few more of these. I need 3 sets of these on this board so we can go through it again and again. I returned my stair gauges back to my framing square, so I'm ready to draw the next set. Instead of cutting out this stairs and then cutting out this stairs and then that stairs, it's nice to keep it all in one board. So when you're sliding your framing square, you have that extra side of the board to help keep your framing square straight as you're working through. That way you can have that tighter groove. Also, we can use our previous drawn lines to line up our next steps. So I'm going to take my framing square and line it up to my last rise. This is actually on the first stairs, but it gives me my line of where I'm going to draw. So I'm going to draw my run, which is my top, and then we continue our rise all the way across the board so we have something to put up against our house. So we draw this line here, and so this again is going to go up to the house, and this is where our top step is going to be. Now it's time to make some cuts. To be cutting these out, I'm going to be using a Ryobi circular saw and then a hand saw to finish at the very end. Now that we have our stair base cut out, it's time to move on to our boards that we're going to be using for our steps, also known as tread. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my risers down to the size. Now I'm using my old steps as kind of a reference point of how long these boards need to be. So I have 1x6 boards for my risers, and I'm going to be cutting them 73 inches and 1/4 long. To make the cuts on the riser, I'm going to be using my Bosch miter saw. I've already attached the bottom riser to the base of the stairs using a framing nail gun. You can also use wooden exterior screws for this project. Now the next step I have is to set up the next riser, and if you notice I put in some 2x4 blocks to help hold it up. When nailing this to the base, you want to make sure that you are flush with your run. You'll notice there's a slight gap, which is absolutely fine, but you want your board towards the top so it's flush. So using some 2x4s at the other end to help hold it in place while you nail it in can be very helpful. For my steps, I'm going to be using 2x6 treated lumber. I'm going to measure these 2 inches longer than I did my risers, so I can have an inch overhang on each side of my stair base. Now that I have my boards cut for my first step, it's time to attach them to the stair base. I'm going to be using this handy little jig from Kreg, multi-mark tool, to help keep my overhang even on both sides. It's actually very easy to use. You just set the ruler to the dimensions that you want, tighten it down, and you can do a quick check to make sure that each of the boards are even. You also want to make sure that your boards are pressed firmly against your riser when you're nailing it down. Before attaching the stairs to the house, I wanted to build a platform to give me a little bit bigger landing area on that top step. I'm using 2x6 boards to create the platform, and I'm nailing it to the base of the house using a framing nail gun. When building a platform, you have to do it in stages, so that way you can secure it to the house and then secure on the outside board. If you did it in reverse order, you would not be able to fit your framing nail gun in between the two boards. Now that I have the platform attached to the house, it's time to attach the base of the stairs to the platform. I'm doing this using a framing nail gun. If you are not going to build a platform, you would then just be attaching the stairs to the house directly in the same manner. Now that I've finished attaching the base of the stairs to the platform, I can continue attaching my risers. You may have noticed that I didn't finish adding the top riser before, and that's to give me plenty of room to get my framing nail gun in the spaces that I need. So I'm attaching the last riser, and now working my way up with the steps, making sure it's flush against the riser, and I have my 1 inch overhang on each side. Now I'm attaching the boards to the platform and then the top step. I built the platform just long enough that I would have the boards hang over 3/4 of an inch, and that is to account for the thickness of my rise. Now remember, before when we were drawing this out, if you were not having a platform and you wanted enclosed stairs, you needed to take the width of your riser off from the side. And I did not do that because I was building this platform. And you can see here that it worked out. I was able to maintain my 1-inch overhang because I had the boards overhang the platform by 3/4 of an inch, which lined up with the thicknesses of my risers. There you have it. Now that I have all my boards nailed down, it's time to stain the remaining boards. But before I do that, we need to test out the steps. Tootsie, outside! Up! Can you sit? Good girl. Can you lay down? Oh, good girl. Down the steps. Up the steps. Sit. High five. Yeah. There you have it. Tested and dog approved. Thanks, Tootsie. High five. Thanks for watching Carly Tackles Building Stairs. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and like it. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel, Carly Tackles DIY, Tools and Gadgets, Tips and Tricks.